We are digging back through the archives. The Sorrow of Sir Mike, a Neckbeard origin story, part number 1. 9 years ago? Yeah, it's been a little bit. So yes, part 1. Through reading this subreddit, I found myself torn about posting a story from my own life about one of my friends. I like to think he's not that bad of a guy. I've known him since 2005, and I'm slowly coming to realize that he is one of the people that this subreddit is focused on. A neckbeard. For those doing the math, this was posted 9 years ago, so knowing him since 2005 up to 2013, that's 8 years. There you go, you're welcome. As this realization came to fruition, I began to look at myself and say, is that me too? Am I one of them? I meet many of the classic criteria, such as reading comics, enjoying D&D, playing video games, Assassin's Creed being the favorite, an atheist, a libertarian, environmentally induced asthma, and sleep apnea. Sleep apnea? I don't know if that's a neckbeard trait though. I work in IT. I have a terrible past history with social interactions, although that was in middle school, to be fair. I think most people are allowed to be cringe in middle school. It sounds to me like OP's worrying about his beard on the outside, which is not the one that counts. I don't see very much beard on the inside, at least not yet. Birds of a feather, as they say. Fortunately, I am not overweight, 6'4", 240 pounds, and 24 years old. It's a big boy though. I have a decently successful career as a cybersecurity analyst and US Army soldier. I work out at a CrossFit gym 5 days a week. I enjoy hiking and running obstacle races. I've never owned a fedora, and I have a great girlfriend of 2 years. None of these things disqualify Neckbeard completely in my experience, but it seems like you're on the right path, so okay. So personally, and I know many agree here, I don't think that neckbeards are defined by their interests, medical conditions, or attire. They're more defined by the way that they interact in personal and professional situations, which is to say with a sense of entitlement that often seems really out of place with their appearance and demeanor. Oh good, beard on the inside that counts, that's what we say around here. This story is the 9-year process of my realization that one of my best friends is a neckbeard, and my attempt to grasp if he had always been a neckbeard or if he was transformed into one by a controlling ex. And I think it's really interesting that we got the squirrel beard saga going alongside this. It makes me ask the same question. This story is as much mine as it is Mike's, and it begins in 2005 when we first met. God, that's a long time ago. It was the first day of 9th grade, and it was my first day in a new school. I had made a switch because of bullying issues at my old school. In short, I arrived as the new kid in the middle of 6th grade after my father retired from the military, and I was plunged into a terrible, socially awkward state by being the too tall, gangly new guy. And especially being in 6th grade, I think that's the biggest factor here. You're young kids, as far as I'm concerned, they get a cringe pass, all right? It's when you hit your 20s that I'm like, all right, we gotta cut all that out. I finally convinced my parents to let me change to a local charter school, which functioned as an island of unwanted toys for schools in the area. A meeting ground for the socially awkward, if you will. My first day had already been pretty awkward, getting shown around by some redheaded girl who a year earlier had gotten way too deep into my personal space and didn't even seem to remember who I was. She knew. She was just trying not to show her cards too early. We finally got to my first class, and I was turned over to Mike. It was a relief to be away from the personal space invader. Seriously though, people, arm's length. Yeah, especially these days. Is that personal space invader thing an Andrew Jackson Jihad reference? I hope it is. I think it's way too early for that to be a thing, but maybe it's not though. I can't do the math again. Mike seemed like a great guy. He was outgoing, knew everyone's name, and he was fun to be around. After my train wreck experience at my last school, I decided that this is a guy that I should get close to. You're a moth, sucked in by the light, but soon you'll be in for a rude awakening. Well, we ended up becoming good friends throughout high school. Relevant information from this time includes the fact that I dated 2 girls. Yeah. One that I was basically peer pressured into dating and ended terribly, and the other, which lasted about 2 years and ended with her changing her relationship status on Facebook after not talking to me for 4 months. Dude, my heart goes out to you, but yes, this is middle school to a T, is it not? I don't think these quote-unquote relationships, I don't think we can count either one of them, especially not the first one. Long story, it was terrible, but I am a better person because of it. There we go. See, learning lessons. You had to go through the bad times to get to the good times, to know what you really want. Mike, however, dated no one. He did constantly hang around and sometimes make out in the back of his late 80s retirement community style Oldsmobile with a girl named Melissa. Hell yeah, FWB! Despite him wanting to, no dates and definitely no sexy time was had. She was a year ahead of us and eventually graduated, moved to college, became a juggalo, dropped out, married some guy, moved 3 states away, probably 14 kids after that. Oh no, this is a terrible trajectory. Although, maybe she's happy. In which case, it's none of my business. Isn't that always the worst? It seems the worst on the surface, OP, but like I said, if she's happy, great. At this point, Mike bounced from having interest in girl to girl, and he was still broken up about the Melissa situation, of course never addressing his feelings with these other girls, and always making his voice more effeminate when talking to them on the phone. Okay. As I was just about to deploy to Afghanistan, he became interested in a girl that he worked with named Maddie. It's always the M names with Mike. I think he seeks out relationship alliteration. That's a new theory to me. We did do quite a little time skip right there. There was no reference of how many years or whatnot, but suffice it to say that I think Mike has been holding this flame for, what was her name? Melissa? For a very long time. Throughout my deployment, I worked nights. I was able to talk a lot to my friends back home, but I had no real face-to-face speaking interaction with anybody for about 12 months. Mike was always telling me about Maddie, and I encouraged him to ask her out on a movie date or to dinner, and I frequently offered him advice on how to proceed, all of which he ignored, apparently. Maybe he didn't want advice, maybe he just wanted commiseration. That's a thing too. When I returned, I viewed the world a bit different, and I had some seriously lingering social issues from not having interacted with anyone for basically a year, so I arrived home, and I went to meet up and see Mike. He says, "Sure, man. Mind if I have Melissa V2 and Marcy tag along?" What? Another girl named Melissa, who shall be referred to as Melissa V2 from here on out. Oh, thank God. He doesn't actually call her V2, right? I thought she was a robot for a minute. And Marcy, I'm telling you, the M names, this cannot be an accident. I guess I don't mind, so we meet up in a McDonald's to grab some food. This is my first time seeing my friend in maybe a year, and perhaps I'm just sensitive, but attempting to reconnect with my friend while he plays tickle fight over the last chicken nugget was nauseating. I give Marcy an apologetic look and found a reason to leave. So the next day, I talked to Mike. "Bro, I thought you were into Maddie. She's who you've been talking about all year," I say. "Nah, bro. I've been over that for a while. Isn't Melissa V2 super great, though?" Yeah, great. Truthfully, she was really damn annoying, and she would go out of her way to invite herself to any event where I tried to catch up with my friend. I see what's going on here. Thus making it impossible to catch up and not be thrown into a socially awkward semi-coma as they basically finger banged under a table at Chili's. That's too good. Other relationships no-nos that were committed include hand kissing and unironic swooping romantic leg lifting end of rom-com kisses over the $5 movie bin at Walmart. Wow, man, you're really painting a picture here. I'm loving this. At this point, I decided to put some distance between myself and them. I was going to wait until my other friend returned from deployment and we could tackle this together. It's not that I don't want my friend happy, but I also didn't like seeing his life run by someone that wasn't him. Maybe you're a little jealous, OP, that he's got a lady love and you don't, you know? You've done a very poor job at painting the life run by someone that wasn't him part. I see the dude being happy. I don't understand. Maybe we'll get a bit deeper into that, I hope. So once David, the third friend, finally returned, a full 3 months later, we got a hold of Mike again, and he was fully owned. She had him dressed in V-necks, plaid shorts, and mandals. Mandals! This OP's killing me. He hits different, I'm gonna tell you. He was buying her lavish gifts every other week in excess of $200, an amount far outside of his spending ability. He was burning through his checking and savings account in order to appease her. He also appeared to have been stripped of what few interests or closely held beliefs he had, and he had simply become a gray person.
Your dream is just everyone on the omnibus, grey, eating grey sludge.
Although I will say at least we get to see Melissa V2's controlling nature now, right? She was using him and it was becoming very apparent. Bro, we don't like Melissa V2. We think she's bad for you and this relationship just isn't healthy. We had the sit-down talk, addressed our concerns with him like any good friends would. The response we got was not exactly what was expected. Well, she's going to Detroit in a couple of months for an internship. I'm just trying to get the most quality time I can in with her. All right, cool. We're going to be rid of this witch in a couple of months. Here's to hoping Mike will be able to eat in the interim because he is running low on money. Author's notes, this is a 100% true story on how a friend and genuinely great person went downhill to the point of becoming a neckbeard. Hopefully you enjoy it. It'll still have some funny, cringeworthy, and depressing moments. I don't know how many parts it'll have, but I will finish it, so yeah. Text wall. All names and locations in this story have been changed for personal security reasons because, duh. Because it's Reddit. Honestly, we don't see too much of the beard popping out in the first part. Sure, he let himself be controlled by love, but he seems like one of those people that's just constantly looking for love. And I can identify him because I am one of those as well. Jumping from relationship to relationship, just looking for somebody that will accept me as I am and somebody that I can connect with. Thankfully, the search is finally over, but I identify with Mike, you know? He seems young, he's not in a good place, and he's trying to buy his way into true love, which is just not how it works. But we will press on into a part 2. There's about 5 parts of this, so I guess the last one will just be 3 parts, maybe? Is that gonna work? I guess we're gonna have to see. But let's jump into part 2 right now. The Sorrow of Sir Mike, a Neckbeard origin story, part number 2. If you need to catch up, well, I just read part 1. But here's part 2. All right. The witch was gone, off to Detroit. Never had I been so happy to see a friend miserable. He kept in text communication with her. That was something that was annoying in its own right, as he almost never looked up from his phone. Bro, he's hooked in real good. I don't know why you're trying to say, he seems happy, but she's also sucking his bank account dry, and then we'll probably toss away the hollow husk, so I don't know. I think OP is doing the right thing, honestly. It just hurts to do it in the moment. So, towards the middle of the summer, the texts began to slow, and Mike became more enraged with whatever it is that we were doing when we were all together. So there we were, enjoying a round of fish and chips at our local seafood place when Mike says, so I'm gonna go to Detroit to see Melissa V2 in a couple of weeks. Oh, you still got money left for that, bro? I couldn't help but let a small groan out, but I attempted to remain supportive. So apparently they rented a hotel room, banged, and then had pillow talk and watched a documentary on Nat Geo about some decaying rhino carcass. And we're not talking about Mike or Melissa V2, right? High five. And they say romance is dead. So now the equation has completely changed. Mike no longer has his V card, and his first time was with Melissa V2. After he returned from Detroit, the text conversation was more sporadic than before, yet Mike remained optimistic, including asking me what picture of the two of them he should have framed and sent to her in a care package. Both were pretty horrifying. I selected the one where they weren't trying to eat each other's faces out mid-makeout sesh. I like to think I did him a favor, but he kept the other one for his desk. Oh, that's poetic in its way. I hate this one, so I picked the other one. Okay, now you gotta look at the one you hate all the time. I'll go on record with the fact that she got more care packages in Detroit than Mike ever sent me in Afghanistan. Regardless, it was almost Christmas time. I mean, I don't know if I have to explain this to you, OP, but Melissa does more for Mike than you could ever hope to do for him, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, right? Anyway, yeah, Christmas time. It was the most wonderful time of the year. At least typically. However, this time it marked Melissa V2's return to our area. Oh no, can we crash a plane or something? That'll solve it. Hey guys, I'm meeting up with Melissa V2 after work today for coffee, Mike said one day. Great. David and I were thrilled. No, not really. Despite what we thought would happen, Mike's coffee date seemed to go off without a hitch. However, it was certainly not a sign of things to come. It's definitely hard for me to believe that the real story hasn't even really started yet. It comes after the breakup, doesn't it? The fallout is going to be brutal, isn't it? Oh, buckle up. Mike has a birthday that is eerily close to Christmas. So do I, December 7th. Thank you so much. I can only assume that he's been victim of birthmas gifts his entire life. I've never asked. He has never told. You kind of get used to it. It's all just stuff anyways, man. But on his birthday in 2012, we were in a Buffalo Wild Wings with an odd assortment of people. There was myself and my girlfriend, David, Marcy, personal space invasion girl, Maddie and her boyfriend, and then of course the birthday boy, Mike. We were having some beers and playing a trivia game for several hours. Mike, however, seemed distant, always in his phone and not even really seeming aware that he was at his own party. It was as if we had reverted to the early Detroit days, where we would never see Mike in any other position except hunched over his phone, tapping away messages to Melissa V2. I mean, it is his party. He probably shouldn't have had a party if that's what he wanted to do, but he should be able to do what he wants to do on his birthday, our big special boy. All of a sudden, somebody screams, "Ew, Mike!" It's personal space invasion girl. Are you sexting at the table? First off, he was. Second, gross. Third, did she really have to announce it to everyone? Yeah, this is not a good person. This is not a person I want to be around. Turn around, look her dead in the eyes and say, yes, I am. And I got a boner right now, so I can't stand up. Just completely deadpan. Do it. Do it. You got to flip the script now. Go. Mike turned bright red. But after telling him he might want to cut all of that out while sitting at the table, we moved on so as not to embarrass him anymore. One would be inclined to believe that if they were doing that, having those explicit conversations, that things were going all right in paradise. After a rather zany birthday outing to the bar, whole different story for a whole different day, we all parted ways and Mike wasn't heard from for a week. Is that normal? Is he okay? Somebody get a check on Mike? When David and myself finally met up with Mike again, he seemed off and different. Over beers, he didn't really want to engage in the topics that we typically discuss. Despite asking if anything was wrong, he didn't want to talk about anything. He, through the night, continued to stare longingly into his phone, unlocking it, relocking it, seemingly hoping for there to be something there. Now, call David and I bad friends, but we snagged his phone when we had the opportunity and unlocked it to see what he was staring at, figuring that this was the source of his brooding behavior. Okay, bad friends, why don't you just ask your friend, bad friend? Let's steal his phone, bro. Yeah, surely that's gonna fix the situation. Ugh. They're out of high school now, right? He's in the military, right? I don't know, I was kind of a douchebag too in my early Navy days. Fine, gets a pass, whatever. It was, of course, a text conversation with Melissa V2. From what we saw, there was a completely amicable conversation occurring, and then a 4-day break where nothing was said, and then Mike texting back, "Melissa, please, I just want to talk." One was led to believe that in those 4 days of no contact, something had occurred. It, even today, remains a great mystery, but it is, however, what started a long descent into neckbearddom. Bro, don't hang your manhood, don't hang your humanity on any other person, whether a girl or a guy. No matter what, you gotta stand up, do what's right for you. But yes, this is the lesson that he's due to learn in this story, I suppose. The next couple weeks were highlighted by discussions of how Melissa V2 went back to her ex Tobias, who she always said was a real a-hole. Interesting note, I actually know this guy from outside the whole situation. He's actually pretty cool. Firefighter, EMT, likes old films. I get along with him pretty well. No idea why he'd get back with Melissa V2, but whatever. Mike said, "I just want a chance to talk to her." It's over, bro. Move on. Start the healing process. I feel like this is a decently natural response to being left for someone else. I didn't really pay it any mind. As the weeks dragged on, the fervent checking of the phone continued. David and I felt that it was time for another check on what him and Melissa V2 were discussing. But he certainly wasn't sharing with us because, quote, "we didn't understand." Because after all, we had never been dumped or loved anyone else before. Eye roll. Okay, but it's not about you. He's going through his healing process, you know? Lay off. When he's ready to talk about it, he'll come talk about it. Good on you for checking, but you don't have to turn this into like, oh, I could have fixed the whole situation if only he listened to me. The text conversation was 100% one-sided, with Mike asking to have a talk for days. And then Melissa V2 would humor him. He would write a 4,000-word declaration of love. She would tell him that she said it was over. Rinse, wash, repeat. This was beginning to be very troubling, because it was basically stalking. So David and myself casually worked our way into a serious discussion with Mike on why he might need to think about moving on about now, without letting him know that we were reading his messages. Again, say what you will, we knew it was wrong, but it was the lesser of two evils, letting him continue to harass this girl. Again, I think I have to side with OP here. He's got some gray morals, but they do stand up to scrutiny. This discussion was very one-sided as well, where he effectively talked himself into a broken down, babbling mess on the bathroom floor. I was sitting there, doing my best to console, yet guide him away from the situation, wondering to myself, is this what rock bottom looks like? Honestly, all things considered, that's a pretty soft rock bottom. So, no, to answer your question, OP. This conversation was marked with some special quotes, including, "I'll prove to her that she still loves me. Tobias is an a-hole and he doesn't deserve her. I'm such a nice guy. I did everything for her." Doing everything for her, that is a nice act. Expecting something for it, that is a nice guy act. As you can see, the nice guy thoughts had begun at this point, as well as the entitlement to a relationship and attention from those that he was interested in. I'd like to think that this was rock bottom, We talked about Marcy, the girl I met at the same time as Melissa V2, and how he had some conflicted feelings about her, and we encouraged him to pursue those and move on and move up. Author's note, everything up to this point has been a preface. Part 2 is where the descent into madness truly begins. One would think it's over, but it ain't. The now shell of a man I once knew is beginning to flourish into a full-blown neckbeard. Often he shows signs of recovery, but don't be fooled like I was. Things are going to get much worse in Part 3. As with Part 1, this story is 100% true, no matter how absurd it may seem at times. All the names and locations have been changed for personal security reasons. I know Part 3 is where it gets juicy, but I gotta end it for today. This has been a really wild ride. I don't know how it flew under the radar for 9 years, but I dug it up and I'm happy to be sharing it with you guys. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on all the things. Dooda. Always remember, you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it. I shall see you in the next one, and until then, friends, bye-bye.